Good morning, everybody. It's good to be with you. It's good to see everybody. I got my wireless disappeared from last week, so yeah, I think Janisha took it with her. Let my daughter speak, and she just... Well, we are going to go to John chapter 10. If you've got your Bible, we'd love to have you turn there, John chapter 10. And that was a good worship set this morning. You know, I had one guy describe our church as a gospel church. He said they even do the gospel in their music. You know, and the songs that we sing have the gospel of Jesus Christ, and they're so encouraging. I love those encouraging songs. Are you in John chapter 10? Awesome. Either on your app, on your phone, or a real Bible. Real Bibles in church just these days are fewer and farther between, I think. But John chapter 10, and I'm going to have to completely rely on you guys in the back because my advancer is gone. So we'll begin, and you know, I think I'm going to do it old school again. Let's stand for the reading of the Word. I mean, the Word of God is worth standing for. So, most assuredly, I say to you, he who does not enter the sheepfold by the door, but climbs up some other way, the same is a thief and a robber. But he who enters by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. To him the doorkeeper opens, and the sheep hear his voice, and he calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. And when he brings out his own sheep, he goes before them, and the sheep follow him, for they know his voice. Yet they will by no means follow a stranger, but will flee from him, for they do not know the voice of strangers. Jesus used this illustration, but they did not understand the things which he spoke to them. Then Jesus said to them again, most assuredly I say to you, I am the door of the sheep. All who ever came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. I am the door. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved and will go in and out and find pasture. The thief does not come except to steal and to kill and to destroy. I have come that they may have life and that they may have it more abundantly. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd gives his life for the sheep, but a hireling, he who is not the shepherd, one who does not own the sheep, sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and flees. And the wolf catches the sheep and scatters them. The hireling flees because he is a hireling and does not care about the sheep. I am the good shepherd, and I know my sheep, and am known by my own. As the Father knows me, even so I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. And other sheep I have which are not of this fold. Them also I must bring, and they will hear my voice, and they will be one flock and one shepherd. We'll know one more passage, and then we'll move into the word of the Lord. The Lord is my shepherd. I have all that I need. He lets me rest in green meadows, and he leads me beside peaceful streams. He renews my strength. He guides me along right paths, bringing honor to his name. Even when I walk through the darkest valley, I will not be afraid, for you are close beside me. Your rod and your staff protect and comfort me. You prepare a feast for me in the presence of my enemies. You honor me by anointing my head with oil. My cup overflows with blessings. Surely your goodness and unfailing love will pursue me all the days of my life, and I will live in the house of the Lord forever. Amen. You may be seated. The Lord is my shepherd. I have all that I need. All that I need is the title for today. All that I need. Because the Lord is my shepherd. I have all that I need. I'm going to do, we're going to have this slide up for quite some time, some concepts from John chapter 10. Go ahead and put that one up. There it is. I'm just going to touch on not all of those things because we will be here till next Sunday. And, you know, it's easy to get caught up in life and all that's going on and everything that's going on around us and forget that we actually have all that we need. We really have all that we need. If we have Jesus as our shepherd, we have all that we need. We have a sheepfold. The sheepfold is symbolic of the kingdom of God. When you come to Christ, you come into his kingdom. You are a child of the king, and you have a sheepfold. It's represented by the church, which is supposed to be the pillar and ground of truth. What does that mean? The church should be a place where you can come and hear truth. Even culturally, about what's going on in our nation, what's going on in history, what's happened in history, what we think where we're going. Like the sons of Issachar had an understanding of the time and knew what Israel ought to do. Doesn't say they did it, but they knew what they ought to do. There are things that we ought to do in these days because we have understanding, and part of that is standing. And having done all to stand, no matter what happens. We should be a pillar in our community. The church should be strong. It should be stable. It should be unmovable. Just like you and I, we should be unmovable. When we find truth, we hang on to that truth, and we don't let anybody dissuade us of that truth. Now, we have that sheepfold. Now, in the Middle Eastern culture, when it talks about a sheepfold, you have to understand that it really was like a corral. It was like a pen with stone walls were at about 10 feet high. That way a sheep couldn't jump over it, a wolf couldn't jump over it, and critters couldn't get in. The sheep couldn't get out. And so the sheepfold was often big enough that it would have more than just one flock in it. There could be multiple flocks come in to spend the night in safety in the sheepfold. I wish that it were that way, that we could have more churches coming together, in these days. All together in unity, and it wouldn't matter, they could all spend a night in peace and rest, get together, have fun, and then when it's time to go, you just go. But we have also a door in the sheepfold. Now, Jesus in the passages, you remember in John 10 said, I am the door. He's the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father, no one comes into the kingdom except through Jesus, because he's the door. He is also our shepherd who laid down his life for us willingly. He laid his life down for you so that you could have free access to the Father in heaven. So unfettered relationship with the Lord. We need more pastors that smell like sheep. I don't know about you. I've always said this. I've said this for years, that we need pastors who smell like sheep. Rather than those, you've all seen them, the untouchables. And they have their little entourage around them, their security detail, and nobody gets through, nobody gets to even get close. My pastor was not like that. In fact, if we were in a meeting, in a large church where he would speak, if we didn't come up to him and say, hey, we would be in trouble. And he would not allow the entourage to bring him out into the service late, right, after worship has started, and he would not allow them to whisk him away as soon as he was done speaking. He wanted to stay, and he wanted to pray, and he wanted to engage with the people. That's the pastor I had. Pastor Dick Iverson. In fact, he blew me away one day as I first moved to Portland to go to Portland Bible College. I had to go over to Fred Meyer to get some supplies, some toothpaste or something. I don't know what I needed. I just needed some supplies, and so I headed over. It was the closest large grocery store, and as I'm going in the door, he's coming out. I have never met this man to that point. I didn't even really know who he was. And he walks out the door, and he sees me, and he says, "Hi, Jeff, how you doing today?" I'd never met him. I'd seen him in church. I'd seen him around. But he knew who I was. That marked me forever. Forever. Touched me. That's a true shepherd. That's a real shepherd. And we need more like that. I heard it was said, it was reported to me. I didn't get to see the message yet. But I want to encourage you, if you want to see some good messages, go back and look up on YouTube MFI Leader, and watch some of the messages. And one of the guys, a young man, was preaching, and he said the same thing that I'm saying. We need more pastors, more shepherds who smell like sheep, rather than a green room. Yeah. and doorkeepers. You know what doorkeeper was all about? Now, get this concept. You've got this sheepfold, 10-foot high walls. There's only one way in. We heard that. Jesus is the way. There was only one door, one opening to the sheepfold. And at night, either the porter, a hired porter, or one of the shepherds would actually sleep in the doorway. That's where they would make their bed. They would lay down so that nothing could go out or nothing could come in without going through the shepherd. That's a true shepherd, spending his night in the doorway, sleeping there, becoming the door. In the morning, the shepherds, other shepherds, and this is to the illusion of, multiple flocks can come together, and it's okay to mingle with other churches and other believers because you can come together like we have, and we will do in the future, have joint services. Because the shepherds would come, and then they would come into the sheepfold. The doorkeeper would let them in because he would recognize them as a shepherd of the sheep. They would walk in there, and then they'd start saying, Jerry, Jeff, Paul, right? They'd start calling the names. Then think about this. They name their sheep. Just like I learned that there was a buffalo that I adored that had a name. It's Mr. Wobbles, right? Mr. Wobbles. But those shepherds would come in. And they would call out the name of the sheep and then just start walking, and the sheep would follow them. The other sheep that didn't get called by their name would just stay there. Because to them, even though that was a shepherd, he was a stranger to them. And they wouldn't follow. This is a level of intimacy that we see between a shepherd and his sheep. Relationship that is by name. And this is exactly what God has for you. A relationship where he calls you by your name. I remember in my trouble days, in my in-between period, I had BC, and then I had tumultuous times after I came to Christ, because the devil, he wanted to take me out, and he did a pretty good job of smacking me down and smacking me around. I'm telling you, it's a miracle that I'm here today. I should have been dead at least twice over, or 3 times that I know of. When the ground drops out from underneath of you and you're 50 feet above a raging river and you don't go down, that's a miracle. I'll tell the story some other time. I've told it before, but we'll get back to it. He calls us, and he called me. Come on, I've told you this. I went from a big city where they were rocking some styling clothes and some amazing hairdos. Come on, feathered hair. You remember that? The John Travolta look of Saturday Night Fever kind of a thing. And you go from a big city where everybody's trying to look cool to a town that has one traffic light that blinks. And everybody wears Lee jeans and hickory shirts. Right? And they all tear their hems off the pants. Because if you're out in the woods, you don't want to have a hem on your pants. Because if a limb goes up between your pant and your boot, it'll trip you. And if you don't have a hem, it'll just rip. And so all the bottoms of their pants are all shredded. I didn't look like them. So those were really hard times for me. Really hard times for me. They picked on me. I had one guy named Scott. I had another guy named Sam. I forget the other guy's name. And I literally went to, this is when we had homeroom teachers, to my advisor and homeroom teacher, where you check in the morning, who was also, the town was so big that he was the driving, is when you had driving instructors in school, and he was also the judge. Okay, so I went to him. I said, I got this problem. This guy won't leave me alone. He's calling me all these names. He's chasing me around. He's harassing me. And I said, I'm a redhead. Some of you don't understand what that means. Jenny knows what that means. You only push the redhead so far. And then there's this like a nuclear explosion. And I told my homeroom guy, I said, look, he's getting to me. I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's not going to be pretty. He says, oh, I'll take care of it. Well, he didn't really take care of it. So one day this guy comes up to me and he's being really, really sassy. And he comes after me. And I lost it. I was sitting at a table, a lunch table with circular little bench, so boom! Right in his gut. And he flew about 6 feet, and his eyes were as big as saucers. I immediately went to my homeroom. And I said, I told you I was going to do it. I did it. He's like, okay. He was pretty cool. He said, I'll take care of it. Because I just knew I was getting kicked out of school. This is how hard it was. And during that time, I had thoughts of suicide. Twice I actually got to the point where I was going to do it. But God called me by my name. Started speaking to me. I would go on walk. I didn't have a single friend. No friend at all in school. How would you like to be in a brand new place and have nobody engage you or talk to you other than to want to put the beat down on you? I was pretty discouraged. I'd go for walks. I would cry. And when I did, God would talk to me. He'd say, Jeff, I love you. I want you. I want to be your friend. And that's what got me on the road to coming back. And saved my life. Because then I rededicated my life to Christ. And that's been, wow. We don't want to say how long it's been. Yeah, it's 40 plus years now. True shepherds also protect their sheep. True shepherds will take on a lion or a bear. Think of David. Think you're reading your Bible and David, right? He took on a lion. He took on a bear. And when it came to Goliath, he was prepared. And what did he do? He didn't kind of timidly get up there. He ran towards that giant. And that's the kind of believers we need to be in this day. You see, when you have Jesus, you have all that you need. Jesus provides communication. He will talk to you. He will walk with you. If it weren't for those walks and talks, I wouldn't be here today. His voice. And I'm sure that he is in this season. He has been doing a whole lot more talking in this season than people are doing listening. We need to develop ears that hear the voice of the Lord in these days. We need to hear his voice. When he prompts us and he calls us individually by our names. Imagine that. Tim. Holly. And he leads us and guides us and shows us things. Teaches us things. We talk about relationship. The most amazing, most intimate relationship you can possibly have. And it's with somebody you can't even see. I know for some it doesn't make sense. But think about how much love he has. That he laid down his own life. In fact, Jesus even teaches that if you are a shepherd, a good shepherd, and you have 100 sheep, and just one of them goes astray, he'll leave the 99 in the safety of the sheepfold and go and search for the one. He finds the one, comes back rejoicing, because that's the greatest thing that can ever happen is when somebody comes back into the fold or for the first time comes in because they respond to the call of the shepherd. Do you know that if a sheep is prone to wandering, say you have an individual sheep that wanders all the time. And it gets out there and it gets lost and the shepherd goes and gets it. You've all seen the picture of the sheep around the shepherd's neck? What you don't probably know is that that sheep is there because the shepherd broke its leg. And he's trying to redevelop relationship trust and a dependency. Because the shepherd so loves that, he doesn't want that sheep to go off a cliff or in a pit. He doesn't want the wolf or the bear or any other creature to get to it. So he will allow, and this is what happens when we come under discipline. We get discipline because the Lord loves us. Now, I know it's a strange thought, but in husbandry, it's actually a kind thing to do, because then that sheep is on that shepherd's shoulder all the time. He'll feed it. He'll take care of it. He put everywhere they go. The shepherd carries him, puts him down, takes care of that sheep. And all of a sudden, you get such a relationship, such an intimacy, such a bond built during that rebuilding time, that sheep will often and never leave the side of the shepherd again. He'll never wander again, never get in trouble, never get caught with its wool in the briars, or be susceptible to attack. You know, because when you leave the safety of the 99, you don't know what's out there. What happens when it gets dark? You know what sheep do when it gets dark? They get noisy if they're all alone. Bah! Bah! Because they're trying to get their way home. They want to hear, where do I go? And they could become prey. You have all that you need. The Lord is my shepherd. I have all that I need. The Lord is my shepherd. I have all that I need. Go ahead to the next slide. He lets me rest in green meadows. He leads me beside peaceful streams. He renews my strength. He guides me along the right paths, bringing honor to his name. This is a day and this is a time and a season that we need to ensure our relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ like we've never done before. Is he your shepherd? If he's your shepherd, you have all that you need. You need to understand that you need Jesus today like no other day. There are people, church, get ready, because we're going to have to stand in the gap for people. There are people who are facing jab or job. And we have to be ready to take people in. We're going to have to be ready to temporarily house people until we can get through this insanity. But for those that are facing, could you imagine, right now, if you're not facing that, you're probably in a green pasture, in a meadow. Your economy is okay and you're fine, and nothing is, rattling your cage. But if you're not, can you imagine what life looks like right now? It don't look like green meadows and peaceful streams. But if you have Jesus, you have all that you need. You need to understand, if you are in God's economy, you can survive anything. If you're in his kingdom and doing his will, if you're living life according to his guidebook, according to what he determines and decrees and says the way we should live, then you're going to be okay. Genesis 26, Isaac faced a famine. It says there was another famine after the first. Yet another famine. So Isaac had already lived through one famine. Now he's facing another. And he's in a place where the Lord gives him a word and says, do not go down to Egypt, but stay here. Really, God, you want me to stay in a place of famine? What's that all about? There are people facing famine. And they need to know that God can give them a word and get them through. Because what Isaac did, Genesis 26 says, he sowed in that land. And in the same year, he reaped 100-fold. Because he obeyed the word of the Lord. He remained, he stayed. When you have the Lord as your shepherd, you have all that you need. Somebody can say amen. He'll renew you, he'll guide you. He'll prepare a feast for you in the presence of your enemies. Think about that. Think about that. Preparing a feast for you in the presence of your enemies. He's got his rod and his staff. They provide you comfort. Why? Well, the rod is for the lions, the wolves, and the bears, because the shepherd was really good. That rod was about 18 inches long, and that thing, he could just throw it and hit an animal on the head and make it go silly. Lights out with that rod. But the staff was there just to gently encourage the sheep. Oh, okay, you're getting a little too close to the edge there. Nudge that sheep right along the side of its neck, and then the sheep would get away from danger. That staff is there to comfort them because they know that the shepherd is with them. You need to understand that God is for you. He's with you. It says in verse 6, surely your goodness and unfailing love will pursue me all the days of my life. Do you expect goodness? Do you expect his unfailing love day by day? You see, favor isn't fair. And you need to understand that you have the favor of the Lord. If the Lord is your shepherd, you have all that you need. And his favor, which is not fair, is yours for the taking. But you're going to have to understand that you should be expecting favor to follow you. His goodness, his unfailing love, his mercies are new every morning. Do you get up in the morning and expect, hey, here I am, Lord. I know yesterday was a little bit of a test on you. I just didn't do things quite the way I should have. But thank you for these new mercies. That's your God. That's the one who you serve. Goodness and unfailing love. And he says, because of that, I will live in the house of the Lord forever. I think we're on the next one. I will live. Verse 6. There you go. That's where I'm at. I was making up some time. Have you ever heard the story of Obed-Edom? Obed-Edom was a Gittite, not a Levite. This is important. Go to the next slide. Obed-Edom, that's how he's the Gittite. In 2 Samuel 6, let me set the stage this way. You see, years previous to this, Israel was in war with the Philistines. And the Israelites thought it would be a good idea to take the Ark of the Covenant out to the battle. But they lost it, and the Philistines got it. And the ark was missing from Israel for about 20 years. And then all of a sudden, because of circumstance, the ark was not good for the Philistines to have. Their god Dagon ended up on his face with his head knocked off and his hands cut off. And the Philistines ended up with tumors, with boils, and hemorrhoids. Just saying, it's in the book. And they figured it out that all these bad things are happening to us because we have this ark of the covenant of Israel in our city. And so it didn't matter what city, all the cities they had 5 cities were just overwhelmed with these curses. And so let's get this thing out of here. And so they picked it up and put it on a cart. They put it behind a couple of cows, and they set it on the road. And they said, well, if it goes back to Israel, it's meant to go back to Israel. We'll just watch. Sure enough, here these cows just are, taking the Ark of the Covenant. And pretty soon somebody sees it and tells David, the king at this point. And he goes to fetch the Ark of the Covenant. He's so excited. He gets down there. He's taking his instruments. They're having a worship service like you would never imagine. Like today was nothing compared to what they were doing. And they're worshiping and they're bringing the ark back, and all of a sudden one of the oxen stumbles and the cart kind of tilts, and Uzzah puts his hand up to steady the ark. And guess what? He died. Boom. I don't know why God does things like this, but it's the Philistines were touching this thing and they put it on the cart. They didn't die. Yeah, they had some hemorrhoids and some tumors and some boils, but they didn't die. this one guy reaches out to steady the ark, and he's dead. And David's like, ah! And so they freak out. They don't know what to do. And so they take it to this guy's house. They haven't made it back to Israel yet because Obed-Edom, the Gittite, is from the city of Gath. That's what it means to be a Gittite. You're from Gath. Anybody know of a famous person from Gath? Goliath. This guy's from Goliath's town. He's from Giant Town. He's a Philistine, and the ark comes to his house. But do you know what the scripture says? The ark comes to his house. He hosts the presence of God, and he was blessed. His household was blessed, and everything in his house was blessed. Some of you caught it. The Philistines captured and kept under control the presence of the Lord, and they suffered curses. This Philistine hosted the presence of the Lord and was blessed. There are too many churches that are trying to control the presence of the Lord instead of hosting the presence of the Lord. Philistine. Capture, host. Control, invite. Obed-Edom, his entire household was blessed. David came, show the next one, with all kinds of instruments, playing music on fir-wood, harp string instruments, tambourines, sistrums, cymbals, next slide. And on it goes. And next one, let's go ahead to the next one. The Lord blessed Obed-Edom and all his household. So David goes back. He figures out, how do we bring the ark back? They realize, the priests are supposed to carry it. You see, it's like, duh. They should have known that. Obviously, they flunked Israeli history. Kind of like our students are flunking U.S. history now. Because if we had more students of U.S. history, we wouldn't be in the mess we're in. Did I just say that out loud? That's okay. It's true, isn't it? So here they study and they go, we're supposed to put these poles in there. There's these loops alongside. And then the priests are to carry the presence of the Lord. And so what does David do? Let's go to the next one. They will 6 steps and then offer sacrifices. Imagine how long that trip took. A lot of sacrifice. 6 steps, sacrifice. I mean, you're talking about slaughtering, burning, all of that, feasting, everything that goes in with it. 6 steps, do it again, do it again. All the while, they're bringing it up with shouting, with the sound of trumpet. And we know David was dancing before the Lord, whirling and twirling and making himself look unseemly to the ruling class, to the dignified. He looked foolish for what he was doing. And his wife even called him out. You know that, so I'm not going there. But here the presence of God is coming back. Do you know what happens in the Bible? You've got Obed-Edom, the Gittite, the Philistine from Gath, from the city of the giant, and he hosts the presence of the Lord. He gets touched by the presence of God. And what does he do? He follows the ark to the city of David. He leaves his home, takes his family, and they relocate to Zion, the city of David. And Obed-Edom, you'll find it, you look in there in the Bible, you'll find out that he becomes a doorkeeper in the tabernacle of David. Meaning, remember the sheepfold? The one way in, there's Obed-Edom. He would not leave the presence of God. And then he learned how to play instruments. He became a musician, a harpist, and a singer, and a worshiper. He was touched by the presence of the Lord and became a new man. He became a worshiper and a doorkeeper. And then you'll understand why Psalms 84 is in there, because this is the story of his life. Psalm 84, verse 10. For a day in your courts is better than 1,000 elsewhere. Just one day in your presence, God, is better than any 1,000 I could spend anywhere else. I'd rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than dwell in the tents of wickedness. See, when the Lord is your shepherd, you have all that you need. And it'll change your life. It'll rock your life. It'll move you. It'll take you from one place to another. And you will always walk in the blessing. The Lord is my shepherd. I have all that I need. Will you stand with me? I want to invite you today to make this a reset day. A day that you reset your commitment. A day that you reset your dedication. A day that you reset your heart on the love of Jesus and stir up that first love. You remember when you first came to Christ, how happy you were and how the sky was bluer and the grass was greener? That first love. It's kind of like for those that are married, that first kiss. It's amazing. And then we get all caught up in life and we lose the magic. Will you reset that day? Will you rededicate yourself to knowing the presence of God? In fact, hosting. Will you host the presence of God and allow God's presence to touch you, to fill you, to change you, to give you a new perspective and even a new life? When you make Jesus your shepherd, you have all that you need. Don't try and keep the presence captive, like under control. Let it go free. And I'm telling you, I'm the first to admit that there are times when God begins to do things that I get totally uncomfortable with. I went to Toronto and I tried to control that move of God. I mean, these people, they were jerking. Their arms and legs were twitching, and I'm like, you're being a distraction. I'm trying to worship here, and you knock it off. Lord, I'm going to go talk to them. And the Holy Spirit says, are they your sheep? I go, oh, no. I was taught a lesson. You can't always control what God is doing. Sometimes you just need to embrace it. And let God sort it all out. I don't care if people fall or don't fall. I don't care if they shake or don't shake. I don't care. As long as what their life was here, over there is different. I've told this story about the guy in Tillamook who came in looking golf. I had no idea it was a visitor. He fell down. He was on the ground for over 3 hours. And he came back the next Sunday. I introduced myself to him because I could swear I've never met this guy before. I didn't look anything like that. He was a new man because the presence of God got here. Will you determine to hear Jesus talking to you? Will you reset your hearing? Will you allow him to lead you and guide you in these days? Will you open up your heart? Will you open up yourself to hearing the Good Shepherd's voice? I'm telling you, when you have Jesus as your shepherd, you have all that you need. If there's anybody here today that you'd like to, the altars are open. If there's anybody, your heart is pounding in your chest right now, that's just a sign of the Holy Spirit moving in you, wanting to do a deeper work. And if that's the case, we want to pray with you. We want to encourage you. We want to stand with you in this journey, because that's where we're at, church. That's where the church is at. Let me just prophesy with my eyes open. The church is beginning a new day, a new journey. The revival is coming, and the revival starts with you. With you hearing his voice, with you obeying, with you following his lead, with you not being ashamed of the gospel of Christ, no matter what that means. If you're here today and you want more prayer, we want to pray with you. We want to soak you. We want to saturate you. We want to love on you. We want to support you. We want to be there with you on this journey. Father, I thank you. If anybody wants prayer, you just come. I thank you right now for stirring us to hear your word, to stirring us to know that you are with us and for us, to know that you're always there, even in the midst of a storm, even in the midst of darkness, even in the midst of trials, tribulations. When the enemy comes in like a flood, you will lift up a standard. You will be there. You'll speak with us. You'll lead us. You'll protect us. Father, we thank you for a love so unimaginable, so undescribable. Such a great love. Father, thank you. Thank you. Bless each and every one who's come today. Fill them to overflowing with more of your presence, I pray, in Jesus' name.